Welcome to our much appreciated agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, May 1st, 2025, and this is All The Leads Mastermind podcast number 526. We got the crew here. It looks like we got two of our coaches on the line so far, or on the call. We got Connor at the helm today. So, Tim, what do you got to share with everybody? What would you like to start with?
Well, let's see. It's not a holiday today. It's the beginning of a new month. Hopefully, it's the beginning of a great month for all of us. Last month ended up pretty strong. Hopefully, this month's going to be the same way. Just a little housekeeping. As always, say sort of the same thing in the beginning. This is your call. We're here for you. If you have something that you want to talk about, you'd like us to talk about, you want to hear about, something you need to learn more about, the bottom of the screen usually has a heart and maybe a hand in there for you to raise your hand. Either one of them, find the button that says raise hand. It'll do something like I just did. It'll put a hand up like is on my screen, and we'll call on you, and we'll take your questions and answer them. And if we don't have a good answer, Jim will make something up. It'll work great.
Yep.
We have other people that can make up answers as well. So it always works out well if we can do that. Seriously, we're here to talk about probate, divorce, pre-probate, your business, tough questions. More importantly, we'd like to hear about what's working, what's going on in your marketplace. It's an interesting time in our world, an interesting time in the market. So we kind of also use these calls to do a little taking the pulse of what's going on in the world. So raise your hand, be heard from, and we'll go from there. That's about all I have for right now. And didn't come in with anything in particular in mind. Joel, what you got there, bud? Unmute yourself. There you go.
So I'm new to the ATL, so forgive me if I have some super rookie questions. I just got my first set of leads, and I'm trusting is probate on your labels is probate date versus file date. What's the difference there, and should I care? And is personal representative the same as executor?
Personal representative, I can take the second one easier. A representative is indeed another name for executor, executrix. It's the person who has legal authority and has been appointed to take care of the estate. And what was the first one you asked?
The first one, you have two dates listed. One is probate date and one is file date.
It's interesting to me, actually.
Okay.
Is there a significant gap between the two, or is it just days, Joel? Do you notice?
Usually not a huge gap.
Yeah, because I suspected, if I had to guess, Bruce isn't on the call today. He had a prior commitment, but he's usually good with these questions. But I would suspect it like when a contract is signed, you put a date on there. It may be when the paperwork is signed, I would think would be the date, and then the file date would obviously be when the courthouse gets around to it, and that can really vary from courthouse to courthouse greatly. It really can. Yeah, some are way more efficient than others.
Yeah, California is very slow.
Yeah. Oh, you're not as bad as some places like New Jersey. And,
wow.
Yeah, there's some that are a nightmare. Tim, do you have a different answer?
You guys go ahead. I'm gonna do a little research and see if I can get you a straight answer.
All right.
And then also on the labels, it says there's a representative address and a decedent address. I trust the decedent address is most likely the one that's going to be in the estate and for sale, and the representative address is for marketing to the executor.
Correct.
Exactly.
And Joe, you can't always assume that a significant percentage of the time that's accurate, but there are a pretty fair percentage of people that will die in a nursing home care facility, and their house may have been vacant for some period of time. So, so that's not unusual. It really isn't to have it be different. But if I had to guess, like probably 70, 75%, maybe 80% of the time, they're the same. But you can't automatically assume that we hear that all the time, like the property address was a apartment building or a nursing home or something. That doesn't mean that is necessarily the property for sale, but
Gotcha.
the odds are probably in favor of it.
I'd like to add to that as well is sometimes you'll see the address is the same and it's not necessarily a spouse, a surviving spouse. So, and sometimes I find that some subscribers will ignore or not ignore, will pass over if it has the same address. And I encourage you not to still call, because oftentimes it'll be a caretaker, somebody who the executor was living with their
Ah.
elderly parent, their elderly family member, whatever it is, whatever's the case. And then they have the same address. There's many reasons why they may have the same address, and not necessarily because it's a surviving spouse. So don't
Sense.
discount anything. And I think a good rule of practice, if you don't have Property Plus, is to just, copy and paste the address, put it into Google and just check it. Make sure it's not active on the market, sold already, a rental or an assisted living. But the beauty of Property Plus is that it already does that extra step for you. So that's something that you could look into. What that does is that it gives you the information already and says, yes, it's already on the market. This is some other properties that that they may have owned. So it's pretty helpful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I have the answer for you in regard to file date and probate. And I misunderstood what you said. You didn't say filing, you just said file date. File date is the date that we blessed the file and got it ready to send out. In other words, been through all of our steps. We'd gotten the information, we proofed it, we ran it through all of our skip tracing and DNC list and addressability and all the other 30-something steps. We put it through. That's the file date. Once they're all done, we blessed it, it's out the door. The other date is the date that the probate itself was filed. Typically, they should be no more than 30 days apart. The latter of them being the date that we sent the file out the door.
Gotcha.
But that's a
Okay,
good,
thank
and
you.
I'm like, I wasn't aware that we had two dates like that. And I forgot that we actually, when we put it into the CRM, we exposed the file date, and that's the date that the file was shipped.
And Joel, to add one thing that Aline said, that one of the advantages of Property Plus is typically we'll get anything owned by them anywhere in the country, not just in your primary market. And I have to say that gets overlooked too often by our agents. They just work the local ones. The out of area ones are great referrals. I mean, we had a guy 2 or 3 years ago that there was 12 properties owned, I think 2 in his market and 10 elsewhere around the country, and he got a half a dozen referrals out of it. I mean, you call any agent and say, I got to name a number for you, and they got a property they want to sell in your market, and they have to sell in your market. That's a great
Yeah.
referral. You can
Love it.
really fund the cost of your leads and your marketing with those.
It's also a great way to demonstrate credibility to your prospective client. It's, hey, great, I'm glad to hear that, you might have a property here locally. My research says, because I dig pretty deep, my research says, you also might have a property in upstate New York. Are you working with that as well? And it's all of a sudden, oh, this guy's really done his work, knows his stuff. So it's a great way to build that credibility. It's also the thing that you could, if you wanted, if you realize that there wasn't anything out there yet that you could find that's not been listed, then you could go real quick and find a referral partner in upstate New York for your out-of-county lead. And now you're not only walking in to help them with what's there, but you're also talking about your friend Billy in Poughkeepsie, who could work with them on that property in Poughkeepsie as well. Now you've really made yourself valuable.
Awesome.
So one of the things Bruce says too is not to overlook, even if you were to look in like Property Plus, it says no properties listed. Don't not call that PR. Call them to verify. There have been people who have called the PR and find out you're dealing with someone who is a tired landlord who's got properties they want to move. You just don't know. I mean, rule it out beforehand. Obviously, if there's no properties, you work through it. If you're going to send a second mailing, clearly you're not going to send another letter or postcard to that person, but it's something to annotate. So by all means, rule out or at least know what the status is.
Also, Steve, it's entirely possible there was a property that somebody knew they were dying and they transferred it prior to death. Still
Sure.
needs to be sold. It could be in a trust. It could be in a corporate name. It just doesn't get picked up, you know, on the searches. So a lot of reasons to call everybody.
Right. And I know we talked about this last time because it sort of came up, but I mean, you got to remember that just because potentially a property might have transferred on sale, if you put yourself in the circumstance of people you're dealing with, let's say it's a husband and wife, and one or the other of them was the breadwinner. Yes, the property changed hands, but now maybe the insurance wasn't up to date. You don't know the circumstances. They may have the deed to the property. They may not be able to fund the next payment. So
Right.
that quickly becomes an opportunity to help address the short-term cash need, which you can either address by, making an offer to buy if you have an investment interest, or you can potentially go for some cash if in fact there's enough in there to do some things to help it out. You can use probate cash to help with that if there's the ability to pay it off, but it's going to have to come out of the sale. So if they need to fix the house up, you can use probate cash to do that. Okay,
Okay, awesome.
great questions. Don't hesitate to ask them. If you don't, somebody else isn't asking it either, and we'd love to answer them. So it's all good. Other questions, folks, please raise your hand. These are for you. We're a quarter of the way through the meeting, and we got lots of room for more questions. And we were hopeful that we'd have a bunch today. We didn't plan anything special. We've got a bunch of stuff coming later in the month, so we kind of loafed and didn't announce a topic this time.
Hey, Tim, again, I always like, it seems like every time I remind people of this, we have one. But if anybody's got a win of the week, a success story, something you'd like to share with the group, I actually have two that the people couldn't be on the call today that I thought were probably worth sharing. While we're waiting for somebody to raise your hand, please raise your hand, and otherwise I'll just talk for the next 45 minutes. We had one of our long-term subscribers in New Mexico. It's funny, he's done so well for so long. He's reluctant to come on the calls because he does want to encourage his competition, which we have to respect that. So I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but he sent us a broadcast which started the local news of him talking about a property he just listed. It was apparently a bed and breakfast that was used during the Revolutionary War. Apparently, George Washington slept there several times, and the granddaughter passed away, and he got on the news by coming on and making an appeal for, it's for sale, but to respect the wishes of the family, they really would like for this to stay in its present form. And apparently he got a buyer almost immediately for it. I think he's going to double end it, but it was a several $1 million property. So that was a great success story. We had another one, relatively new.
Jim?
Yeah.
Are you saying George Washington slept in New Mexico?
Yeah,
I
that
don't
doesn't make
know.
sense. Yeah,
It might have been Virginia. I off the top of my
okay,
head.
more likely.
It was probably Virginia. Yeah.
There was no New Mexico in the 1780s.
Well, they didn't have any navigation back then. He might have gotten off course and ended up in New Mexico on his way to
Yeah, right.
I just was trying to figure out how. I mean, I know George was the father of our country, but I didn't know he was working out west. Okay.
Thank you for that correction. I believe it was Virginia.
Lewis and
Thank
Clark
you.
in the 1800s, Jim.
Always here to help.
You're welcome. We had another one, a relatively new subscriber who he just added probate, but he decided to start with late mortgage. He is in Virginia, I'm sure of that, but he vacations in Florida, and he was looking for an Airbnb in Jacksonville. He wanted to buy a property, Airbnb it in Jacksonville, and he wanted something around the site of the Tournament Players Championship every year. The area just gets inundated with people. So we kind of did him a custom search, and we did about a dozen zip codes around that location for him. And his third call, he made an appointment, went and looked at the property and bought it, and he's turning it into an Airbnb. So he is not getting those leads anymore, but he added his Virginia leads, and he's getting Virginia probate. And I would have to say, out of all people often ask me when I'm on the calls, like, what's the best lead source? They're all good. The probate is a great long-term, divorce is long-term. The nice thing with the late mortgage that we found out, it's usually a bit quicker conversion, because somebody who's 3, 4, 6 months behind on the payments can't really wait 6 months to sell the property. We've had a number of really good success stories with that lead source, probably quicker than any other source we've rolled out. So if you hadn't tried that and you want to add it, I would encourage it. And also, what I've shared with a lot of the calls that I've made, we can put together a little package and give you a sampling of all our lead sources if you like. It doesn't have to be either or. It can be all of the above. And still nobody's raised their hand, Tim. So it's your turn to fill time. What do you got?
I want to know more about George Washington. I just wasn't aware that he had a Southwestern influence, but I could sort of see it maybe, I can see that happening. Hey, that's, you're making good point, obviously, with all of that. And, we talk about out of market value and all that sort of stuff. You think about it's always important to start with the right mindset. We talk about this every single time. First place you need to start before you start on anybody you're reaching out to is start with yourself. Put yourself in the right mind frame, put yourself in the right headspace, so that when you call them, you do have some, not sympathy because you don't know the person that passed away, so you really don't know that person, but you can empathize. You can realize that they've got a big responsibility. It's one that they didn't ask for. There's not a manual for it. They don't want to screw it up. They probably got people that matter to them looking at them to make the right decisions. If there are multiple family members involved, they're really walking on eggshells a lot of the time. It's also difficult to move a group of people who are grieving over a loss in the family, which could be the case where, it's still a very, very fresh and painful memory. And it's one of the biggest problems in getting a place ready to sell, is that the house is typically filled with all the accoutrements of life that person's had for however long they lived, and particularly in that house. So it's filled with the things that they loved. Getting it moved out, clearing out, your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or kids or aunts or uncles' things, very painful to people. So it's one of the areas you can provide a lot of value in, is to help people past that. And if you don't get it done, house will never get on the market, because they'll never sell it as long as that, wonderful wedding bell from Aunt Susie's wedding cake from 40 years ago is still on the mantle in their house. And I laughingly say that because my mom kept the wedding bell off of my sister's wedding cake. I grew up with that on our mantle in my home, and it was from the early or middle 1950s. That bell stayed on our mantle, and when they moved to Florida, we had to very carefully box that up and get it down here. So those are things that matter to people. It's the pieces of life like that, and you got to realize that that's just one little tiny thing, that if you can get a conversation going about, are there a lot of things in the home that meant a lot to Joe or Sally? Have you gotten a plan together about how you're going to help get that stuff squared away, so you can maybe think about getting it on the market? If they say no, you're home free, you can help. That's one of the services that you can offer. And we have a group that we can also work with to help you do that. We have a group that called Fair Split that we've worked with before, that will turn you on to go get that done as one of the vendors that can provide that kind of value, that helps to do that. So that's just, again, one of the things. So again, we're back to, hey, raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. We're not just going to keep you on here and talk to each other. If you've got something exciting you'd like to talk about, like to talk with us about, please raise your hand. Be glad to hear from you.
And Tim, while we're still filling, come on, guys, we're looking for our winner of the week. I've mentioned before on the call, and one thing you said there, not only come with empathy, but don't make any assumptions. We tend to assume that they're grieving, and many of them are. I've shared before, when I had this idea and I started doing it in my market, I used to lead with, I'm sorry for your loss. And I was making a call one day and the guy said, I said, I'm sorry for your loss. And the guy said, don't be, dying was the best thing that SOB ever did. And I kind of laughed and said, well, in that case, congratulations. he laughed and he said, I like you. You've got a sense of humor. So then I quickly changed it to, that is false sympathy, saying I'm sorry, because you're really not sorry. You don't know them and you mean well. So then I kind of changed my lead to, I'm sure this is a difficult time for your family, and what can I help you with? That it is a difficult time, whether they're grieving or not. It's a difficult time. They've got a lot of difficult tasks to complete. So we talked long enough, and we got somebody raising their hand. Thank you, Michael.
Wow.
Michael, you got to unmute yourself there, bud. There you go.
Yes, I know you have the credibility website. Are you guys doing anything with landing pages only? Just one landing page?
We can put together pretty much whatever you want in terms of doing that. We've had people that have done one pagers. We've added pages to existing websites. It's a custom website. It's a WordPress website, so it can be anything that you want, man. You just have to kind of let us know what you're looking for.
And then talk to my marketing rep there about the cost of doing something like that and the specifics and details on it.
Yep, we can have someone reach out to you after the call.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's one of the questions that we get pretty frequently is, what's the website all about and all that. And we are going to do a feature on that, and we're going to be adding some toys to the website throughout the month. So it's one of the topics we'll cover later on. But you need to realize that you're getting a website just like the letters that we do. We put it together. We give you a lot of tools and a lot of credibility built into the sites that we give you, but we urge you to make them yours, to customize them, to make them unique, put your words on them, make sure that you're working with them and getting value out of them. It's like anything else. If we talk about tooth fairy leads, and what that means is people who get their leads and we say they put them under their pillow and hope they get up the next morning and find money. Same thing's true with a website. You get a website and it just sits there. That's great. And if people want to come look you up, they can do that. But if you want to start building and you want to start growing it, then you need to treat it like any other part of your business and add the things that are necessary to draw traffic and let it begin to grow organically. And we can help you do that. It's not just a dead website. It's a straight normal WordPress website. You have the keys. You can do and say anything you want on there. We don't control it. We do set it up, and we'll help you do whatever you want to do. But if you want to drive it yourself and change it, you can do it. And we're here to help you make that happen.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think it's an opportunity, if no one's raised their hand, it may be an opportunity to just ask overall in general, if there's any one thing that's either an obstacle in making phone calls or an objection that's coming up or some difficulties in, of course, we know that those things always happen. Some are very similar and there's a pattern. And it's a great opportunity when there's such a big platform and so many people to be able to ask that question if there's one particular objection that you've been hearing over and over, or something that you're finding challenging when making calls. It's a great opportunity to ask. Because the other day when I was making some of my probate calls, someone asked me that famous question, just curious, how did you get my number? And I always say, well, when somebody files for probate, it does become public knowledge. And because I'm an expert in the field and specialize in helping families and clients that are going through probate or handling an estate. So I have access to that information. And the person said, well, you were very nice, but some of the people that call me are just and he was giving me some examples. And for as long as I've been doing this, I was still my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. So we're very fortunate at All The Leads because we have phenomenal data and great resources. And so we can really be professionals in our field and experts when we present ourselves. So it's great to just know, if you're handling, if you're making your phone calls and you're coming up with some consistent objections, to use this as a platform to ask.
Aline, that's a great point. I was talking to a guy this week who whenever everybody decides to go on hold or cancel, I always call them and thank them for their business and ask them why. And this guy had been with us for 3 or 4 months, and I know he's a prolific prospector. And the one thing he led with was, your data is phenomenal. I've never seen more accurate data. Your phone numbers are great. People answer. But he said, everybody I'm calling has told me they've already got it handled. I said, well, the problem is, like Bruce would say, you believe them. That's a classic, how can I get rid of you objection. I've got it handled. I mean,
and what does that even mean? I've got it handled, right?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
that's just so vague, and it's just like, exactly, it's like a blanket answer to just say, I've got it handled. It could mean anything, but we know, obviously, they don't, not to say they don't have it handled, but there's so many aspects of whether it's probate or divorce or any of the other lead sources that they don't necessarily have handled. And so just pushing through that is difficult. It definitely is difficult. And it's just always, I find that anytime I have a difficult time asking the next question, or when somebody says that, I just pause and ask permission, because you can't get mad at somebody for asking permission. Someone said to me the other day, I asked permission if I could send some of my information to her or send her an email. And she said, well, first, I just want to thank you for asking permission. She said, I get so many things in the mail that I could care less about. And you know what they're doing? They're helping me decide who I'm not going to work with. Because so that's like one way you're not going to piss anybody off. Excuse me. You're not going to get anybody annoyed. You're going to ask, like, so if it's uncomfortable, pause and ask for permission. May I ask you what you mean by you have it all handled? Like almost over apologetic.
I love the asking for permission. And when I was making the calls, if I could tell they were just on the verge of hanging up and I wasn't going to get anything else in, I would say, oh, okay, great. So you already switched your insurance, and just shut up. And
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Most people have no idea that if the property's been vacant 30 days, their insurance doesn't have to pay if something happens. Nobody tells them that. Their attorney doesn't tell them. So you're providing information and value that nobody else has provided before. So,
Yeah.
Joel,
I was just going to piggyback on Jim's comment when he said, well, the problem is you believed him. When they said I got it all handled, you believed them. So I think the nicest thing to do there is say, oh, good job. Great. I'm curious, which broker did you hire?
Yep.
Right. Well, hire a broker, right? So their response is going to be very telling on if they've signed up with a broker to sell the property. We learned this, Jim and I learned this the hard way back in the foreclosure days. People, no, I got her. The short sale days. No, I got it. It's handled. I got it. You're like, okay, good. What's the solution? What are you doing? Right.
If they have no idea, if they don't know the broker's name right off the bat, don't make them wrong. Don't call them a liar. Say, well, great. Do you mind if I get in touch with them? Or maybe you spoke to someone, you haven't, give them an out. But have you actually signed the listing yet? And then they'll back down and probably tell you the truth.
Exactly.
Second or third shot.
Oftentimes in the probate world, they think about an attorney. So when they say I have it all handled, they typically go, yeah, I have an attorney already and I'm all set and I'm filing for probate. So yes, that's great that you have an attorney because you need one. But there's many areas that the attorney is not necessarily going to be as available to help you with. And, the small stuff that the attorney actually doesn't want to deal with.
Another great question to ask if they've got it handled is, well, that's great. Who are you working with as an agent in case I have a buyer that I need to take there? That's who I'm working with. Got buyers that are interested in property in that area. Who are you working with? Well, that'll real quickly get you an answer of, well, what kind of buyer are you talking about? A lot of questions that'll raise up. David, how are you, bud? What do you got to say?
Hey, very good, Tim. I think I have a win. Um, it's a good thing. So I was stacking up leads on an outer island, and one of them was really caught my attention. And I spoke with the rep, and the rep said, "Yeah, we want to sell this. It's a hotel. We want to sell this hotel, small hotel." So I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is great." They gave a price on the hotel of what they wanted. I thought, "Okay, I have clients interested in that." Sure enough, I had a bunch of clients interested. And and then she just went missing in action. Couldn't get a hold of her, couldn't put together a deal. Weeks turned into months, turned into I'm ready to give up on this whole thing. So decided, well, I'm going to jump on a plane and I'm heading over to the other island anyway, just because I'm going to look at some of the other deals and I had some other business there. So I flew over there, went way out of my way, 2 hours to this hotel. And it just so happened I showed up right when the new trustee was at the hotel, also from out of town, who was just there for that day. I couldn't have planned it any better. Showed up, pulled in right when they pulled in, jumped out of the car. I said, "Hey, I spoke with this trustee." I said, they said that they wanted to sell, thought I'd come check it out. They said, "Well, actually, that trustee passed away. And I'm the new trustee." That's why she was missing in action. She was sick and she passed away. And so then I met the new trustee, and the new trustee was thrilled to speak with me. I shared with them all about the probate process. We walked through the entire hotel for hours, spoke about all the different intricacies and everything like that. And then come to find out there was 5 other properties in the estate. So not only does it turn into now the hotel was the biggest, but there's still other properties in the estate. And basically they're planning on joining me on the journey, or letting me join them on the journey for the sale of these properties.
David, you're a frequent winner of the week. We do sort of have a requirement though. You have to have at least a listing signed. Do we have anything signed yet or not?
I do have listings. Oh no, I have a new probate listing signed.
All right. Well,
No, I do that, but it's not as glamorous as this, but I do have another listing signed.
Believe
So
it or
that's
not,
awesome.
your story reminded me of the plot of White Orchid, but that was Thailand. They showed up
Yeah, yeah. No, I do have another probate deal though as well. But it's not as cool as the hotel.
Okay.
But it is a listing and it is a sale.
Well,
It is a new one.
tell us about that. But first, I have to ask about your hat. Is that a local Hawaiian hat, or is that a volcano,
This
or what is
this
that?
is not. One of my Italian clients gave me several of these hats, and I just kept them because they were expensive. So, and I just liked them. So,
And tell us about the one you did get signed, just real quick, because I know you're very consistent. And
um, so this was just a probate, and what really helped me with this, and this is a ninja move, I think. Um, so spoke with the rep, and the rep said, "Hey, my brother passed away, but here's the thing. On his deathbed, he grabbed my hand and said, 'Just between you and me.'" Um, and I guess I shouldn't give tax advice, but basically I hadn't paid taxes in 100 years or whatever, you know. And it wasn't that long. It was actually a lot shorter than that, but like 10 years or something. So she was very concerned about that. So I called an attorney of mine, and he said, "Well, check to see, check to find out some information if there's any tax liens or anything of that nature, and if there's an all clear with the state, and then give the final tax year." So anyway, all that to say is we did that. All clear on the brother, no tax liens on the brother, no IRS liens on his property. And so technically, according to the attorney, he said, look, if there's no liens, it's kind of up to you, but you can just file the final year of taxes. So that's what the attorney advised. And I shared that with them. It made them very happy. They asked how much I can get out of the property. I shared with them a good number. They said that's great. And then I had a buyer that was interested in purchasing it for that. So that was
David,
that.
do you consistently successful? You've been with us for a few years, I think, at least, right? Several years you've been getting the leads. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? Do you have less competition there, or do you think you're more proactive, or both?
I definitely have competition. There's no doubt about that. I think I'm just more proactive. And actually it's taken years. I mean, the first 2 years I did probates. I mean, I was just a step of faith. I was losing. I wasn't succeeding at all the first couple of years. I ended up getting one deal, I think, in 2 years. And then after that, I just started getting more consistent. I think a big part of it was the learning curve and actually becoming more of an expert in this area. I think that helped me out tremendously. Knowing what to say, knowing about the process, going through the process a couple times, that really helped my success. I mean, at this point now, I feel like I am the expert, whereas I wasn't the first couple of years. And I think people know and sense that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Steve?
So for what it's worth, David, I think you should get the prize of the month with a hotel and 5 or 6 other properties.
Thank you,
So-
Steve.
And David, before Tim asked, George Washington didn't sleep in that one, right? That hotel?
Right,
Okay, good.
right. So, and you,
Oh, but Dolly Madison made that hat.
yeah, well, no, wait a minute. That hat may have, he said he got it from an Italian friend. That's an Italian man bocce ball cap. I'm telling you, that is a Jersey boy. They get around, they wear their hats, and they have little anisette, and sometimes the balls get hit, sometimes they don't. Just depends on how much they tip. So I want to get back to something Aline said that was really important in terms of attorneys, particularly when they have it handled. I've had attorneys tell me that it is a conflict of interest for them to get involved with the administrative aspects of the estate. They handle the legal aspects. They're not going to close a bank account. They want the bank account closed, right? Letters of testamentary is the mother may I allow you to go in and say, hey, I'm the person. I got to close this. Let's put this money and move it to the estate account. So these are the things that folks often don't know that they need to do, that the attorney's not going to help. It's just not what they do. In fact, I've had attorneys tell me, look, I've got clients who need their hand held. That's what you're doing, because they're focused on inside the courtroom and doing the legal aspects of it. I also think another point that Aline made, she made this probably a couple months ago, really about making a call, particularly if it's a difficult call, someone gets maybe irritable with you. And again, it's a mourning process. They're overwhelmed and they have little or no experience. Oftentimes, they've not been through it before. Where Aline, just to kind of break the tension, said, that these phone calls aren't easy for me to make either. I'm just trying to reach out to see if I can provide assistance to you, because I work with many people to help them move through this process to reduce the administrative drag in order to save time and money. And that's my purpose here. Is just trying to see if I can help. And, if they get irritable with you or whatever, go back to what Bruce says. Sounds like you don't need my help today. And I know Aline says she asked for permission. Bruce doesn't ask for permission. He just said, tell you what, I'm going to send you this checklist. Where do I send it to? Is that fair? Okay. And when they say, yeah, that's fair, because it's free, other than the fact that they're giving you their email address, which is social capital, and you can follow up with them and they opted in. That's just another approach. So you can't allow, when you talked about the guy who was a subscriber, Jim, who said, hey, things just weren't working. Everybody says they have it handled. This is the long game, right? And many people are getting phone calls from those who just want to do a transaction. Are you ready to sell today? And nothing against those buy and hold or buy and flip or wholesalers. They have a purpose. Clearly, there's a transaction to be made for those people who are ready to make that transaction. But in this niche, that's not the case. Typically, there's other things in front of them that they're just overwhelmed with, and the real estate somewhere in a pile. And they may get a little bit of understanding once they start seeing the holding costs on that property, what it's costing the estate. So it's about being patient. And I will tell you that those that I've talked with who are wholesalers or investors, I tell them, look, if you think you're going to be adding deals quickly, respectfully, you're going to be disappointed. It's going to take some time. You've got to build this up. It's going to take the touches in order to do this. But if you're providing value first and you're building a relationship, get them away from that transactional aspect that they're so ingrained with. And again, nothing wrong with it. It's just the nuance with probate that it's going to take a little bit of time. And as Jim referred to, hey, it's time. They don't have to necessarily sell. Whereas you're doing a late mortgage, yeah, normally there's a timeline there. Something's going to happen unless they make a decision. And what you're trying to do is provide them with solutions so they can maneuver and definitely avoid bankruptcy. So,
Cool deal. Thanks, bud. Hey, Dan, you're unmuted there. What's up?
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, just a kind of back to basics question. On sending letters, are you guys, is there some structure you guys have for sending out letters, calling, emails? Is there some kind of, grand template you're using to do that? I mean, back in the early days, they say, look, you got to send them 5 letters before you give up on trying to talk to them, or, should I send, 1 letter, make a phone call? Should I send 2 letters, make a phone call? Should I send a letter, make a call, make a letter, make a call? Like, what is there a good strategy for that?
So first quick question. Have you talked to your marketing implementation specialist yet?
I don't have one.
Pardon?
I don't have one.
Okay, but you get your leads from us, right?
I don't know.
Oh, well, then that would explain your question, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, our marketing implementation specialist will walk you through all of that. And it depends on, a number of factors, not the least of which is your budget. Obviously, anyone who's in the business or in any business will tell you that the more frequently people hear your name associated with something positive, the more likely you are to get their business. Being at the right place, the right time, what that's all about. So I guess that if you don't mind, why don't we have somebody reach out to you after the call and kind of walk you through that a little bit, and you'll get a hint of, what we do and what we recommend, because we are the printer. It's part of the subscription process we have, and we'll be glad to work with you to help you get it squared away.
Okay.
All right. If you don't mind, drop your email address into the chat and a phone number, and we'll have somebody get right back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Andy.
Dan, I'm just going to add to it. Our initial few years in the business, we used to say, send 3 letters, follow every letter up with a phone call for 3 months. And that has gradually expanded to send letters as long as you can afford to, especially if you're diligent in working your leads and updating your CRM. You might have 100 leads the first month. If you're calling everybody, you shouldn't have more than half of them left the second month. And by the time you get to the 3rd or 4th month, it should be down to about 20%. Well, if you can narrow it down to the people that you've eliminated, we hear all the time, we have a 6 and a 12-month letter we can send out for you. And the nice thing is, the older the leads get, the less competition you have, and the closer they are being ready to do something. But we had one of our clients on, Travis, maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, who's consistently doing several multi-million-dollar deals a month. And we were surprised. We asked him his average conversion time, and he said it was 8 months.
Yeah.
And he said he gets so many people between that 5th and 8th month that everybody else has given up on. So, not that we don't have people that have immediate success. I mean, sometimes you get lucky, you win the lottery in your first ticket, but for the most part, the longer you work them, the better the odds of converting them. And I don't think you can send them too much mail as long as you're pruning the field and you're only mailing to people that are still live leads. I don't know if that helps.
The other recommendation is as you go, if you know that they're involved, increase the value of what you're mailing to them. Make it a higher value piece of mail. Send them a booklet, send them a multi-page letter, send them a flyer, send them something with it to get it opened. Make sure that you're in their face. That's what you're looking for. Andy, you waited patiently there, bud. What's up?
I was just going to comment on when people say they have things all taken care of. Usually they say, I have an attorney. The attorney's taking care of everything. So I usually say, that's great. I'm happy to have an attorney, but I pick up where attorneys leave off. I'm the boots on the ground. I'm the extra pair of hands. You're not going to pay an attorney $400 an hour to return a cable box. Those are the things that I can help you with, especially if distance is a problem, time, or physical ability. I can step in and do those things.
That's great dialogue and a great dialogue to have with them. The more you find out about how far away from the property they are and all of that, you may be closer, or you can certainly make yourself closer to earn their business. And that's kind of the point. I work with properties in that area all the time. And so I'm going to be by there on Tuesday, so-and-so, so-and-so. Now you've got a lead in. Now you've established that familiarity. That's a great place to begin that dialogue.
Yeah.
Good job. Thanks for that suggestion. That's good. Guys, we got about another 10 minutes left, and we'll be happy to take another call.
Hey, Tim, while we're waiting for the next person, one of our coaches, I don't know which one it was, suggested that they're getting a lot of questions about the vendors, which vendors you should have, what vendors are successful. Was that you, or was that Steve or Arlene? Maybe it was, I think it was Bill Bird. Bill's not here today. So,
yeah.
Anyway, what's that?
Yes, that was Bill.
That was Bill. Okay. And we do, alluding to something you just mentioned, Tim, we do have a trifold brochure with the Wheel of Probate that explains all of that. It's actually on our website if you want to go there and look. But I mean, your basics, you want a contractor, you want a clean out crew, you want an attorney you can refer them to if they don't always already have an attorney. Help me out, coaches. What else should be on the wheel?
Yeah, you want estate sales, you want plumbers, masons. The stranger, the better, actually, because it makes it like they'll say, I don't know. I mean, do you know anybody who could fill grout and whatever? I mean, that could be a handyman, but the more that you could say, I have somebody for that, the better, the more valuable you are. The thing that I also started doing is I really emphasize the fact that I work with small businesses, as opposed to anybody could find 1-800-JUNK or a commercial, company. But when you have a direct relationship with a small company that has, like, you pick up the phone and they answer and they want to do business and they want to please your customers because they want repeat business, that, that puts you in the driver's seat even more. And then it gives you more credibility also. So emphasizing that you work with small businesses, that you have that, close relationship is huge.
Yep.
It's endless. I think vendors, the more the better.
Yep.
Also, if you're not an agent and you're an investor, you need to have agents that you regularly work with. That's part of your team. Flip side of that is, the other side of it is, if you're an agent, you need to have multiple investors who'll bring you cash offers on property so that you can say that. And they're out there. They're easy to find. Great place for you to go. If you're new in this, go to a local RIA meeting and you'll find investors there. Oftentimes you're going to find mortgage brokers there. And if you find mortgage brokers there, there'll also be mortgage brokers that will also handle not only great paper, but subprime paper. And those are all things that you're going to need, particularly if you're going to move stuff quickly. If you need to put somebody in a property quickly, you need to have a lender who can move fast. Most subprime lenders are usually more capable of moving quickly than others. That's the business that they're in. They know that time is of the essence, and if they can get somebody cleaned up and get them papered, they can make a deal, whereas the next guy down the road may have a bunch of steps they're going to go through. A hungry mortgage broker doing subprime, higher interest rate, they got an opportunity to make more money, but they'll move faster and work for you. But these are great things to lead with.
Yeah, and premier people on that list, if you've got some contractor in your market that's willing to wait 90 days or wait till closing to get paid, I mean, that is huge. And don't forget probate cash. Everybody who's one of our subscribers has that option, being able to get them a cash advance. Don't forget nursing homes and long-term care facilities, talk to the administrator. I think it's hard to rate the importance of that. And I had shared a story, oh gosh, about a year ago. One of my best friends has been my attorney for many years. He has his real estate license with my office, and he came in one day and apologized to me that he had listed with somebody else instead of our company. And I didn't really care, because I mean, honestly, I had him on such a high commission split as a friend, it didn't really matter. But he said there's a guy in his little subdivision of $700,000 homes that personally knocks on every door every month. And he said he knocked on the door, and Craig said to him, well, I'm not quite ready yet, but I think we probably are going to sell in the next few months. And he said, do you mind if I take a look at the home? And then he took a look at the home, and he said, great, looks great, it shows great. Can I make a couple suggestions? And Craig said, sure. He said, I think the two things I would do is probably resurface your driveway and, work on a little bit of landscaping in the front. And he said, do you mind if I take care of that for you? And Craig said, yeah, I mean, I'm not quite ready yet, but he said, but you're okay with me taking care of that? He said, sure. He said he came home from work the next day, and his driveway was repaved and the landscaping been done. The agent took it on himself to actually come out of pocket and do that for him. He said, after that, I couldn't possibly consider listing with anyone else. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's an extreme case, and we're not saying come out of pocket, but hey, if you got to provide a premium service to get a good listing, every case is different. Be willing to do what it takes to earn the business.
Cool deal.
Yep.
Guys, we're going to take one more time around the horn. We're not going to just keep you sitting here. If you have something that you'd like to talk about, raise your hand. I'm going to ask for that now, kind of best and final. If you don't have that, we're gonna call it a day here. Great questions that we did get. Appreciate that. And Jimmy, I think I'm going to let you send us home, man.
Well, once again, our winner of the week is David. Congratulations, David. David just, we may as well just give you an ongoing discount on your leads, because that's 2 weeks in a row. But thank you for sharing. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, and particularly thank Joeline, Steve, Michael, David, Dan, and Andy for actively participating. And I want to challenge each of you to take one idea that inspired you on this call. Go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Great week, everybody. See you same time next Thursday. Take care.
Bye.